Welcome here. We are happy to see all of you for this show. Show announces actually quite interesting, exciting. We like the setup of this place and the ambience we have here. I think this is probably the most dynamic show we can expect. So we wanted to keep you informed about what we are doing on the program, on the company. There will be other moments, I'm sure, in this show where we will meet again for some announcements, some features we want to bring to you during the show. So today we will focus mainly on the program progress we're making. You have here Michele, our CTO, who is heading on the one side the engineering activity and on the other side all the testing activity. And he will equally tell you a little bit more what we are progressing on this aircraft. Again, some words on what we want to be, what we do in order to be what we want to be, and how we see the company's mission in the market. So we believe that we have now built up all the ingredients in order to be part of, let's say, the bigger game. We will have one aircraft and soon, hopefully, other aircraft types, which will allow us to change the market in the light helicopter segment. This is by far the biggest segment. It's by far the most dynamic segment, and it has, due to the fact that for decades nothing really new has been happening, tremendous growth potential. So this is what we want to capture, and this is the vision we have for our company. We will do this by innovation. So it's not innovation for the sake of innovation. I'm always saying, and many people do not like me for that we are not building flying saucers. And we are not building city taxis which are flying like in some movies we have seen in the 80s. So our strategy is to build helicopters which can be certified, which will be covered by the certification authorities with some facility and ease. And we want to come with this quickly. It's not for 2035 that we are working. Then, what do we deliver to our customers? We deliver to our customers mission tools. So even though our SH09 is looking great, looking like a Ferrari, like some Italians say, we are not building a Ferrari. We are building a mission tool which will allow our operators to have a reliable, cost-effective tool which is able to do more than one thing. Michele will talk a little bit about what we are doing in order to perform this. This helicopter is, as I'm always saying, the Swiss multi-tool. So, some points on the company. The company has been growing and continues to grow, and we will increase this growth this year because we are now entering into a phase where we have to prepare the production, serious production, and where we have to prepare the product support activity. So 320 people, most of them in Michele's organization, with a design organization which is going well beyond 200 people. Our product is the only clean sheet new development for almost 50 years in this area. So it's a full composite airframe built to latest standards. It's a fully crash-worthy aircraft with a fuel system which is built for that, single crash-worthy seats. The airframe is crash-resisting to the latest norms, etc., etc. But it's not only in the airframe, it's not only the crash-worthiness. We will supply on this aircraft avionics, which are what we call IFR Ready, which means it will prepare IFR operations of this helicopter. We will bring to the market full mission pack, mission tool, mission equipment, which will allow our operators to use all the versatility of the airframe. With regard to the order book, we have a little more than 70 orders now. We have more than 120 letters of intent above this, and this from all kinds of operators around the world. This order book is interesting, at least for me, as it is showing a total global spread. We are basically having orders exactly in the same proportion as a fleet installation on around the world. And we have orders from all kinds of missions, which shows that EMS operators, public services operators, personnel transport operators, tourism operators are highly appreciating the different features. And this is what we have built the aircraft for. And then with regard to the shareholder structure, you might ask the question, I tell you already, I cannot tell you today. I might be able to tell you in some days' time. So we have today a company which will be solidly built on sufficient funding to bring this to an end and to bring this helicopter solidly to the market. So some localization features. This company is Swiss rooted, but it is prepared for the international activity. We have today in Switzerland what I would qualify, if I were sitting alone, as totally non-optimized facilities. We have today our center, management and engineering center in Wetzikon, close to Zurich. We have our R&T and engineering capacity partly equally in Germany. In Mollis, there will be the assembly facility and our second flight test center. Nefels, manufacturing of components, pre-assembly, and at most the different test facilities, because in Switzerland it's difficult to make noise. This is the only spot probably in Switzerland where you can make noise. Fabi, am I true? And Uznach, we have our testing facility. So why am I talking about this? This cannot stay like this. The second is we have in Pozzallo our flight test center, which means Michele is spending half of his life in Italy, in Pozzallo.
It's an hard life.
It's a very hard life in southern Sicily. I'm really weeping every day when I think of this. And the other 2/3 of your life you are spending in Wetzikon to survey what is done in component and material testing and in engineering. All this cannot stay in a spread way like this. This is totally non-optimal. So we are now planning for the industrial activity of the company and for the setup which would be coherent and support what we intend to do, which means massive serious production. So we are planning today a production facility in Mollis where we will concentrate all these elements you have seen here basically under one roof. And this should start in the second half of the year. So it's a quite massive construction work we have to do. But this is only part of what we have and what we need. We consider the US market as being our by far most important market for the next decade. And this is the reason why we have already, this is what we had announced last year at the same show here, that we have already in a preemptive way taken a facility in Lafayette in the US. So we have here a close to 9,000 square meter facility which is turnkey ready for production of helicopters. This facility will assemble, customize and product support the helicopters manufactured for the North American market. this facility would be sufficient to manufacture roughly 100 aircraft per year. Michele, perhaps I hand over to you.
Yes, just talking about the product development, give you an update. You know the story of the SH09 project dating back 2014 with the first flight of P1. It was just a proof of concept that was then followed by P2. It was still expanding a little bit more the concept, but the real reset in terms of design and development was with P3. P3 was brought into the air the first time at the end of 2018, and it had a very, very successful first year of operation between Switzerland and Sicily. In this year, we have been able to celebrate flight number 100, where we have been, with these 100 test flights, we have been able to really capitalize on every single flight test hours, which gave us all the answers we were looking for, and we have been able with these answers to really consolidate every details of the design that was worth being improved. Because remember that with the SH09 we are a newcomer, and as a newcomer in the market we cannot simply afford being good. We have to be really better than whatever is out there, and P3 has been really used for that. Because with this flight test, we got an aircraft that was incorporating all the lessons learned from P1 and P2, was already, flying in a sort of average way. We also got some external, may I say, comments from a very experienced test pilot that made a judgment that the aircraft was already flying quite well, but we wanted to improve it further. And PS4 and the design that is going to be unveiled in a few moments is really the outcome of this flight test experience. All the details that you are going to see, or the modification that we are going to present you, are really the outcome of this 1 year of testing.
So this is what it will look like. We are freezing the design around what you have just seen, and this is what we will bring to the market as soon as we are ready.
I can add that some of the parts that you have seen, in particularly the rotor head and the blades, the modified rotor head and blades, they have been already flying last week on P3 in Sicily. I was there and I flew.
You were flying?
Yes, I was flying them for the first time. This is the first upgrade package, because all the things that you have seen are going to be fielded to P3, upgraded to P3 in the course of this year in steps, and by summer 2020 we are going to have exactly that design flying in Sicily on P3, while we are assembling PS4 to the same standard.
And PS4 will be the representative aircraft for certification. PS5, as you've seen here on the prior slide, will be our aircraft which will do all the flight envelope extension necessary during the certification phase and after. And on this ground, the aircraft will go to the market. So now, go-to-market strategy. Our strategy is not original. So if you want to reach the market, you must go to the market where it is. And with the people who know how to exceed to this, we will have a very dense distributor network. We have today 7 distributors under contract. Within this year, we will gear up to something like 12 distributors, which will be promoting, selling, supporting our aircraft. We will do exactly the same with regard to service centers, which will be deployed in parallel, so that at the arrival of the product on the market, all these infrastructures are in place. The company has obtained today the DOA level 1 and 2, or scope 1 and 2, which means we are now able to authorize our own test flights, to give you an idea, which means it's a high level of maturity of the design organization, thanks to Michele and the team on that side. We have obtained in the last days our ATO, so we have now our pilot training academy. We have our MTOA, which means we will be in a position to train our mechanics. And within the coming days, I have to say, we will equally obtain our POA and our the MOA. So on this ground, the company has all the authorizations in order to bring this aircraft safely to the market. Perhaps, some words concerning the order book. So these are the figures, let's say some days before the show. We will, with this order book, ensure the gear up of the production for the first 3 years. We have already orders today coming in for 24 and 25, which means beyond the first three years of deliveries we plan. I said already we have 120 letters of intents in hands. I consider that out of this, roughly 70% will convert into orders, which ensures basically production gear up on safe ground and the market introduction on very safe ground. Most of these operators, as you see here, are highly professional ones with a big emblematic reach in their countries. We are, for instance, very proud to have Helitrans. We are very proud to have Metro Aviation, and we will, in the coming days and weeks, add other very well-known names to this list of operators we have already. This is basically what we can tell you in such short time, but I hope that some of the information were new for you. At least the technical configuration must have been, because this nobody has seen before you. this is basically what we can tell you in such short time. But I hope that some of the information were new for you. At least the technical configuration must have been, because this nobody has seen before you. And I'm sure they have still some questions. So perhaps I can shortly introduce why we have you here, because you are one of our very close partners. We show this on the HI show here because you are equally associated to us on the booth. And it is extremely important that we explain a little bit why we are working together. Perhaps I give you the opportunity to present VR Motion.
Thanks a lot. I want to keep it very short. Best thing is if you come to the booth and try it out, because it's here, you can try it out live. So basically, the VR Motion simulator concept reduces the gigantic dome projection to VR glasses, and it is with a full motion underneath and a much smaller footprint. So you don't need a lot of space, and you basically can ship the training device together with the aircraft. And that's, I think, the nice part, and thanks to the close collaboration with Kopter, we made quite some progress. What we have here today on even one machine on Kopter Booth is a, I'm still calling it marketing demonstrator, given it's not yet loaded with flight data. But in the meanwhile, we've been able to evolve, and we are now working very close together with the engineering, so that the time the Kopter is ready, the full training solution is also ready there. And this is something we were being able to evolve during the past 12 months, since it's not 12 months, it is since Atlanta. And the nice part is in the certification area, which is very important, we also make quite some progress. Brand new technology in a very old world of regulation. So we are right now in the middle of the process in the EASA certification, and we do have extremely super support from the authority in that area as well.
If I may add, VR Motion is part of Kopter's strategy, and Kopter is part of VR Motion's strategy somehow. Why? Because this segment is suffering from high accident rates, from reputation of safety lacks, etc. So we want, as Kopter and as VR Motion, bring the remedy. The remedy is safe aircraft, easy to pilot aircraft with all the safety features which save life. We bring basically on the helicopter all the safety features you see today on twin engine helicopters. So this is the innovation basically we bring on the SH09. But this is not enough. So we want this helicopter segment becoming again the key segment over European cities, etc. And how can you do this? Yeah, you have to prove that there will be no accidents. And in order to do this, you need to train more and better. And for cost purposes, doing this with a full flight simulator, moving dome for tens of millions of investment, this is simply not compatible with the normal flight hour cost of a helicopter in this segment. But if you do it with the virtual device we are jointly developing, this will allow to reestablish this safety reputation, in particular in the EASA environment, but worldwide. So it's part of our strategy to boost training in order to make flying safer.
Tony Osborne with Aviation Week. Michele, can you just describe the differences between the new main rotor head and the old one, and how that's transformed the performance and the flight characteristics?
The new main rotor head we have changed the architecture of the damper or frequency adapter, if you want to call it that way. In the previous configuration, the 5 elastomeric dampers were arranged with a sort of circular metallic structure that we called boomerang. So they were only providing damping in the so-called lead leg, cyclic lead leg, which is basically the movement of the blades when subjected to a cyclic input, but they were unable to provide any collective damping, so any kind of torsion transient that was going into the drivetrain due to a pilot action or due to external factors like turbulence, updraft or downdraft, they were not damped. And this caused a reaction on the airframe for which the aircraft was every now and then fishtailing, so flying like a little fish. This new architecture of damper, with which we have retained the elastomeric concept, because the elastomeric concept is really maintenance-free, or actually is on condition, is providing the opportunity to stay on condition maintenance, due to the new geometry, is now providing this collective yaw damping, which conversely has improved significantly the riding quality and the stability of the aircraft. This has been coupled with new rotor blade design with some improvement in performance. You have seen, I mean, the one among you that are more focused on details, you've seen that the blades, they have some extended trim tabs on the outboard section. This together with this new rotor head is giving to the aircraft more stability, higher control margin, and making overall the piloting task easier. The comment of Richard Grant, our chief test pilot, after flying the aircraft last week, was that it really flies like a different aircraft. Now the aircraft, you can, even without an autopilot of any sort, you can even leave the flight controls unattended and the aircraft stays in trim, which is something which is quite difficult to achieve with an helicopter. Normally, on any conventional helicopter without the autopilot, if you release the cyclic to scratch your nose, you have to be very fast in scratching your nose before grabbing again the cyclic, otherwise you will be upside down. And this modification is really giving us, this is the first step of what Andreas said, working on active safety, passive safety, and pilot training. So with this modification, we are enhancing the active safety, making the aircraft easier to fly and more stable. The passive safety is already built into the design with all the safety features, the redundancy and crashworthiness of the fuel tank and fuselage. And finally, having an affordable training solution, this will be the last, I would say, ring of the safety chain that we are building to put into the market with the SH09.
Now you understand why I like discussing with Michele. Afterwards, you are always more intelligent. Please.
Hi, Garrett Ream with Flight Global. It sounds like you're very close to going to market, and if you could just clarify and summarize what you have left before this helicopter is ready to enter service, just in short.
Perhaps we have to respond to this both together. I will talk about the more general and Michele on the more specific technical part. If you want to bring this helicopter to the market, you need to be able to supply not only good aircraft, but you need to have built all the infrastructure, in particular the services. So we have a big construction site which is already in the building today, of customer services, product support, all the technical publications, logistics, spare management, etc. So a big construction site on that side. We will not bring to the market product support in the classical way. We cannot come up in 2020 or 21 with a customer support which is just a copy-paste of what others do since the 70s or 60s. So we will build on a more digitalized system which will allow on ground of the already digital architecture we have in the engineering and production. Sorry for this. We will set up from the beginning digital system which will look a little bit more like what you are used to see when you go on internet today and buy with Amazon. There was all kinds of services which will be rethought and rebuilt in comparison to what is known today. So customer service is one subject matter. The other subject matter is for sure production. So we are starting from the beginning with some outstanding experts we have been able to hire, a lean production mode. So it will be an outstandingly lean system for the production of this helicopter, different from what other helicopter manufacturers are doing. It's more like a car manufacturing model with outstanding role we give to some key suppliers who will be tier ones. And this will allow equally, you have seen here Lafayette, this will allow us to have production lines, assembly lines, almost everywhere where the market requires it, without disturbing our basic cost model. So then, I said already, you need to supply training. So this training academy is now constituted. It was a big milestone for us. And you need to have international distribution structure. We are in the building, I said this, and service centers. So all this is in the setup process, and 2020 will be a quite tiring year for all of us. We have to gear up our qualified personnel. So we are now more recruiting than we have been doing in the past, with profiles being in the engineering on the one side, because you always can complete with good experts, and I invite all good experts who would enjoy coming to us to come. And we will recruit more now on the product support side and on the production side. Michele, for the technical roadmap.
Yeah. On the technical roadmap, it's a pretty conventional roadmap because we are finalizing, as say, between now and summer 2020, the development, and then we will start with the certification. The certification work will be done on laboratory with fatigue test of all the critical components, and then we will use 2 prototypes and 1 serial helicopter. The prototype P3 and PS4 will share the burden of all the certification test flights, and S6, which is going to be a purely production helicopter, will do a small portion which is required to achieve certification, which is the demonstration of the compatibility for electromagnetic environment that you can only perform on a fully representative serial aircraft without any instrumentation. S6 will also take some of the so-called function and reliability flights, which are compulsory to certify a new type with EASA, where you have to show basically that the aircraft is performing in accordance with the expectation while flying missions typical of the intended use of the prototype. The only, I would say, peculiarity of the roadmap that we are following is that normally you certify first with your certification authority, that for us being a European applicant is EASA, and after you get the ticket, you go to FAA for the validation. But this would have required too much time. As you know, as Andrea said, US market is of paramount importance, and the entry into US market is very important for us. So we have agreed, thanks to a possibility, a provision, which is in the bilateral agreement between EASA and FAA, to go with a sort of concurrent certification and validation, which means that we have permission from EASA to involve the FAA authority since the beginning. They will ride along with us and with EASA in a sort of 3-party adventure. And I'm going to meet with them during HAI on Wednesday. I will meet EASA and FAA simultaneously. And we will agree, we have already agreed, and we are going to detail how we are going to implement what is going to bring us to get an EASA validation really few months after getting the FAA validation, sorry, few months after getting the EASA ticket. With the FAA, otherwise, a validation from scratch of a new product could take even up to 1 year nowadays. We have I have some experience from my past life, and we are now trying to prevent this from happening. Yes.
Molly McMillan with Aviation Week. Following along this past question, when do you expect it to, like, first deliveries to begin?
As soon as we have the certification. Now, this answer is evidently a little bit too short. So we have our certification roadmap. We are targeting to do this, if possible, in 2020. So it's quite a speedy process. And as soon as we have this certification, everything will be ready for the first deliveries. But we will not deliver tremendous quantities of helicopters in the beginning. So it is extremely important when you bring a new aircraft, and even incumbents with a lot of track record learn each time that you have to be very cautious with a new type. And for this reason, we have what we call a launch customer concept, which means we have some partners, some very experienced, very safe operators with a experienced 145 environment who have teamed with us in order to bring this helicopter through the first year, flying as much as possible, and we will supply them a maximum of services, tech reps, spare parts, etc. But in exchange, we will be able to learn, which means we will get the data. Michele will see how the different aircraft are flying, aging, and what we have to do better. So this first year will be dedicated to this, and after this launch customer phase, we will deliver in a much broader way to other customers.
A couple of questions. Ken Swartz with Vertical Flight Society, Vertiflight magazine. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about acquisition cost and operating costs, and I'm particularly interested in terms of acquisition costs in terms of what you figure the base price would be, but also since you're aiming at various sort of custom markets like EMS, what a fully equipped aircraft might cost, and then also what you're looking at in terms of hourly costs.
Yeah. In general, when you come with a new aircraft, you cannot offer it at twice the price. So now, what we are targeting is very clear, is to be totally price competitive in comparison to what is existing today, which means the aircraft we are bringing to the market will be in the 3.3 million category, 2019-2020 price, with an escalation in future inflation rate, etc. So the baseline aircraft, which is already quite well equipped, so you will have all the avionics features you have just seen in this little film. You will have the crashworthiness, you will have the dual hydraulics, dual electrical system, dual FADEC, etc. For a price where you would not get it with other light single engine helicopters. So we will be, with regard to the acquisition price, quite competitive from the beginning. Then the real question is operating cost. So operating cost, I will not be able to tell you now it is X dollars. What I can tell you is we have an experienced team in place with tens of years of experience in maintenance, product support, etc. And we are designing the helicopter in a parametric way in order to achieve a very competitive operating cost. When you see an airframe like ours, for instance, to my knowledge, carbon is not corroding. So you have in a modern helicopter features which will allow you to bring the operating cost to a very reasonable level from the beginning. Now, this is what we are doing, and we are convinced that we will have an aircraft which will, from the beginning, be very interesting in terms of operating costs. But one feature is equally important. So you were talking about EMS. We compare our helicopter with aircraft, I will not mention them, which are flying more in the twin segment, I would say. It's even bigger twins. So our cabin volume, which will be determining for many operations, in particular here in the US, is more than equivalent. It's bigger than most of the light twins from the beginning, which means you can do with a single engine helicopter. We will bring it to a single pilot IFR standard very quickly. You will be able to do most of the missions which are normally dedicated to light twins. So, and then we are talking about something totally different. Instead of 12 million for an outfitted medical helicopter in the twin segment, we would talk more about, let's say, 4.5 to 5 million for equivalent helicopter built on the SH-09 platform, which will change the medical operations, in particular in the United States, but equally in Asia, where twins are taken mainly for the cabin size.
You also seem to have hinted at looking at a family of helicopters, not just the one aircraft. Can you speak a little bit about how you will sort of diversify your base?
It's a little bit early to say this. I think you have well sensed what we feel and what we are seeing in terms of ambition. Yes, this company will have more than one product, but it's a little bit early to talk about the details. What I can tell you is you have seen on the introductory slide where I was pointing a little bit to the strategy. For me, there's a lot of innovation which can still be done in the helicopter world without going into urban taxi type. There are a lot of things which can be done in terms of CO2 emission, reliability of drive systems, and use of modern electronics in order to equally contribute to safety. So which means more autonomous flying, means less emissions of a helicopter to be more acceptable in urban environments, and equally, if you see the overall sensitivity worldwide in terms of CO2 emissions. So this gives you some ideas what kind of platform it will be in the end, what size, etc. For me is, for the time being, I can't say secondary, but it's not prime. What I build today more is the bricks. And these bricks will be put on the most suitable platform for the, let's say, most demanding market segments.
Oliver Johnson with Vertical Magazine. IFR Ready, is that just a matter of getting that certification through? And if so, how high a priority is that?
Yes. IFR Ready primarily means that, as you know, the first certification will be VFR day and night only, but IFR Ready, the real meaning is that the customer taking delivery of an aircraft with his first certification tag for VFR can later upgrade it to IFR with a minimal cost, as most of the aircraft is already meeting certification standard for IFR. The only things that will have to be added to the configuration is the 4-axis digital autopilot that is not going to be part of the first certification, although we have already started to work on it because we want to be ready with the autopilot when time comes, right after the first EC. So this is basically what we mean by IFR ready. It's not really that the aircraft can go IFR the day after certification, but if you buy an aircraft now, we do the homework, which is going to be done initially only with the FAA. This is going, because at the moment in Europe, EASA does not support the single engine IFR certification, so we are going to go directly to the FAA, most likely through an STC, as has been done by Bell and Leonardo on the 407 and on the AW119 respectively, but this is going to be an easy change, because all the features, all the safety features, all the redundancies that are that are then compulsory once you switch to IFR are already present into the baseline design. This is why we call it IFR Ready.
And the high level of
Yeah.
the Garmin.
Yes. Thanks also to Garmin, but thanks also to the dual hydraulics, to the redundancy on the electrical system, making the likelihood of the so-called full electrical failure or other loss of attitude information, this kind of failure mode that are catastrophic in an IFR environment, are already built into the baseline design.
Any last question, or we're good?
We have exhausted them.